All right. So if you want to just like, I find the easiest way if you just want to do like a really cheap comp, is to just I'm going to grab all of these things here. And so, like I said, basically the goal is to have this character render with shadows on the objects in the scene, but not necessarily all, you know, I don't actually want this like gross Lambert thing in the scene. I just want this to look like it's sitting on top of the little printer box. So what I'm going to do, select all my materials, right click, assign a new material, find my Arnold shaders, and assign these a shadow matte. So what this should do is, basically it says I don't want to render this with like diffuse or anything else like that. I just want whatever shadow would be affecting the items here. So once I do that, you'll notice that like it's pretty much rendering on my scene, and like the shadow, you know, stops at the edge of this box, that kind of thing. If I were to, so like to make a point about why this is kind of good to line up your stuff properly, I'll grab this edge here, and like if I push this in really weird, like this, you can see that like the shadow does not line up at all correctly with the side of that box, which is why it's important to actually line that stuff up properly. Have I, like this shadow feels weird. Oh, I see, because I moved my scene ever so slightly, so. But yeah, so once I actually moved my camera back in position, you can see that the shadow is showing up on this little light thing here. And if I hide this figure, you can see everywhere that like there's no shadow here anymore, no shadow here, no shadow here. So I'll just like unhide that figure. What am I doing? Actually, for some reason, forgot the hotkeys for that. So you can see that again. Once I unhide this, it'll go back in and add in all of the nice shadows and stuff. The one thing you will notice is that there is a shadow on this side of the fabric, like right here, totally not there in the picture. So basically what's happening is that like some of the objects in my scene, like this guy here, are it's casting a shadow onto this, which I don't want. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually curious, is there behavior, caching frozen. Alright, I was kind of hoping that there would be a... Yeah, that's fine. So I was hoping there would be an option here, like, don't make this object cast shadows. It's entirely possible that there could be, but if you don't want this to cast shadows, what I usually do, I'll just select this object, go into the object, the shape node for that object, and if you go down under render stats, or I believe you can also do this under Arnold, I'll just turn off cast shadows, and you can see that as soon as I do that, it is toggling the shadow here on and off. So I'm just going to turn that off because I really don't need that. You can see also like my line is like a little bit off, so I get this really aggressive like dark blob sort of down there. So again, I'm just going to uncheck cast shadows and probably actually go through and do that for every single object. And you can do this for multiple objects at a time. You can't. You literally have to click on every single object and go in and do it individually. That is indescribably obnoxious. You'll also notice that I have a lot of n-gons in my scene, because I just didn't want to fix them. N-gons are still bad. For stuff like this, you can kind of get away with it, since I mostly just want like the really basic geometry. So, kind of shrugs. Alright, so I think that's everything. This should be casting shadows. Oh, I see. Okay, the person is casting. I was like, what is this weird shadow here? And it's totally the person. Just being spacey and weird. Okay, yeah, that's 100% the person. Good, awesome. So now, I mean, you could pretty much just leave this like it is, if you wanted to. There's fancier ways to do this where you can like save out a bunch of different render passes and stuff like that. But in this case, I think it's easier to just stick with this. You should also be able to, you find this image plane, you can also check this to be turned on and off under somewhere. I know you can set this to not render. I could also just like turn off, if I hid that image plane or deleted that image plane, it'll still render stuff. What is it? I want my alpha. So if I press A after I do that, this shows me the alpha channel in the Arnold renderer. You'll notice that like my figure is white, so there's complete opacity, and then there's like a bunch of shadows and stuff hanging out down here. It stops pretty much at the edge of my box, and then all this stuff is also shadowed. So if you didn't want to render your actual background thing, image plane, if you didn't want to render your image plane, you could just get rid of it or hide it, or like I said, there's a box somewhere to check it off. I just don't remember where it is off the top of my head. And then you could basically save this and throw it into Photoshop, and it would pop back as expected. Cool. So I'm actually going to render at a less stupid size really quick. So the rest of this video is probably just going to be me like twiddling with render settings a little bit. So you're welcome to hang around for that, or you can wander back in. And then I'll probably make a new video to show how I would like maybe comp this together in Photoshop, like really like cheaply. For like if I wanted to save this as 2 images for some reason, so I could like edit the levels of this kind of thing against the background. Anywho, so yeah, I'm gonna render this and see what the heck happens. I have no hopes that this isn't going to crash my computer, because that would be too lucky for me. Oh, also, so this is this little button here. It's displaying the green channel, blue, alpha, luminance, RGB. That's what I'm actually looking for. Oh my, yeah, this looks really gross. Yeah, so I mean, in this case, clearly there's some sampling issues. Part of that is the noise texture I added in here. So I'm just gonna run through that real quick and twiddle with, so there's also like an insane amount of reflection happening here, which is somewhat questionable. So I'm gonna go in here, I think, and might actually want this less. That's the bad thing about testing stuff on like super tiny renders, is it is quite difficult to actually tell what the heck you are doing. Because sometimes it's like, is this pixels or is this noise, or like what am I actually looking at right now? So in this case, I'm just gonna run down to this and roughness off again. I'm actually just gonna look at this on the hair because this is still rendering really slow. Alright. I think I like it better before. With less contrast. Guys, this might have also just been a bad idea to add this in here. I got down on my knee. From super rough to very rough. Something should be happening here. I don't really know why this isn't working here. I was just fiddling with the wrong sliders. Is this even doing anything? What the actual heck? Ah, no. How much do you want to bet I forgot to check alpha's luminance? Is that even an option for this? Oh my god, it is! Watch, it's gonna work this time, guys. It's totally gonna work, I feel it. I just need to wait for my entire image to render again, which honestly, since it's mostly an image plane, is quite fast. Yay, alright. Wait. No, that still looks super terrible. What is happening here? Alright, I'm literally just going to fiddle with sliders. Ideally, I would have some kind of actual map for this, but I do not, so. Alright, I think I'm still going to go back and make this like 50. Well, that looks just terrible. What if I actually just get rid of this for realsies? It totally looks better with something there. I'm just not convinced that this noise texture is the best thing ever for this. Alright. Randomness, size randomness. Alright, I'm just going to twiddle with some of the actual settings and frequency. Like, I kind of like this. It's just enough to barely break up. Yeah. I think I like this. It's enough to, like, barely break up the surface, but not enough to be, like, super insane. I do kind of like the splotchiness on the base, though, but whatever. Downside of this, I could also have played with the amplitude and the threshold, which probably would have made infinitely more sense than screwing with the color balance down here. Bummer. It's been a while since I've actually used noise nodes for anything like serious in Maya. We're just gonna make a new noise node because it's gonna be way easier to modify when I haven't screwed around with all the values. Alright, I'm gonna repeat this 10 and 10 because I think that's like relatively easy to see what the values are doing. Yay! Oh, this is so much less terrible to work with. Just infinitely, infinitely better here. And this is like still something like this might be shiny enough maybe to be shiny, but not shiny enough to be insanely aggressive looking. I could be wrong though. It's actually kind of one of the reasons I'm not a huge fan of noise textures, is a lot of times it's hard to make them sort of soft looking. Something like a cloud or a fractal actually would probably be better for this, but I really just need to size randomness. Go. Alright, and now I might come back down and fiddle with the color offset. Ooh, wow. That'll make it shiny. I mean, it is actually kind of cool if you need like a very shiny object with, I don't know what this looks like exactly, but it actually, this totally looks like the pitted surface of marble. Like, where you'll have these really hot specular things, but there's like little dents in the surface. That absolutely feels like marble to me. But in this case, I don't think I want it quite that shiny, so I might just like pull it back up here, and then maybe maybe do something kind of like this. Sort of ish. Alright, and I think I might... What is spottiness? Alright, I might make this a wee bit denser and then call this a day. Because I think I'm getting a little too into this for what this project actually is. Alright, we're gonna say that I'm happy with this. I still think it's really awkward looking, but whatever. Ideally, when you texture stuff, you make the textures look like a little bit realistic and or better. But shrugs to an extent. Alright, so something about this seems to be being a little aggressive with the, like, reflections here. What happens if I make this whole thing metal? Nothing good is the answer to that question. So I'm just gonna bust into my render settings real quick, and I'll mostly focus in on this little hand area in here, and I'm just gonna go in and fiddle with my settings. So I might make this like 4. That didn't seem to help. Alright, so I think it might be diffuse samples that I want, or it's going to be like the camera AA. Alright, I think I might, going back into my default render view for a minute, if I can actually get this thing to render what I want and or expect. I'm almost done with this tutorial, so, well, by almost done I mean I might be like 20 more minutes, but I would take a very short walk after that.